We see now what's meant by adequate sleep. We see the health risk to not achieving 7 hours of sleep every night. But what exactly is going on here? Why don't we get enough sleep? And when we don't get enough sleep, why is this a problem? Let's take a closer look at the mechanism. Let's start with why we don't get enough sleep. I think of three categories when I'm talking to patients about getting enough sleep. The first are patients who don't make sleep a priority. If they decided tonight they wanted 7 hours of sleep every night, they could get it. It's just a matter of making that decision, but work usually or Netflix get in the way. This group of patients don't really need help with sleep hygiene practices. Second bucket are people who are experiencing a short-term disruption in their sleep. And I most commonly find this in new parents. There's a newborn in the house, the baby's crying throughout the night. They're not getting 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep, but they were before the baby came, and they anticipate returning to 7 hours of sleep once the baby gets a little older. The third category are people who can't get enough sleep. It's not a matter of it not being a priority. They want to get enough sleep. It's not a matter of a baby in the house. There's nothing to point to. The problem is chronic, and they fall into two categories. Either they're not able to fall asleep, or they're able to fall asleep but not able to stay asleep. Or both. They can't fall asleep or stay asleep. The common reasons that people are unable to fall asleep are mood. Anxiety and depression are especially relevant here. When we are chronically anxious, our mind is racing. When we're lying in bed with nothing to occupy our attention, anxiety can get even worse. We can start worrying about the future, what will happen tomorrow, and it makes us worried that we're not going to get enough sleep to be ready for tomorrow, which makes us further unable to go to sleep, which compounds the problem in a vicious cycle. Also, when we're lying in bed without anything to engage us, we can think about what we regret. We can ruminate about the past, and this is especially the case with people with depression. Another reason why people aren't able to fall asleep are stimulants. And I'm talking here about tobacco. I'm talking about alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. I'm talking about caffeine within 6 hours of bedtime. I'm talking about exercising that's stimulating, like aerobic exercising. Some people get relaxation from a walk or yoga. I'm talking about exercise that pumps you with adrenaline and makes it difficult for you to go to sleep. That can be troublesome within 3 hours of sleep. And I'm talking about temperature. If it's too warm in the bedroom, it can be difficult to go to sleep. Sleep experts recommend like 60 to 62 degrees. We're going to get into much more detail when we discuss tips for getting a good night's sleep. This is just giving you an overview of some of the reasons that people are unable to fall asleep. As far as being unable to stay asleep, same problem with mood here. Anxiety and depression can cause the mind to race and can make it difficult, make people wake up in the middle of the night, need to check their smartphones to see if that email came in from their boss. Inability to stay asleep can also be from distractions. I'm thinking in particular about light and noise. Having ambient light when the sun rises, if you're trying to sleep beyond the sunrise, can make it difficult to fall asleep unless you have blackout curtains or an eye mask. Sound is another big distraction during sleep. If you're interrupted by noises in your apartment, that can be a problem as well. Inability to stay asleep can also be affected by alcohol. We experience a mini withdrawal about 6 hours into digesting alcohol that we've consumed, and this can cause a mini withdrawal with an episode of waking up in the middle of the night. Even though alcohol can make us fall asleep easier, it can cause these mini withdrawals to make our sleep interrupted during the night. Temperature is another reason that we talked about. Keeping the bedroom cool is important. And finally, sleep apnea. This is a medical cause of inability to stay asleep, and patients will report that their loved ones say they stop breathing at night. And it looks something like this. So there'll be an interruption in the snoring that causes an awakening event, which the patient might not even remember. When to look out for this: if your partner says they observe your breathing interrupted during sleep, if you snore, if you get morning headaches, if you're obese, if you fall asleep without intending to during the day, if you have headaches in the morning, all are clues that you should seek evaluation. At least bring this to the attention of your regular primary care provider. We now see the different categories of why people don't get enough sleep. Priorities, short-term life events like a newborn, and inability to fall or stay asleep.